All right, diving in again. Today it's the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, and this one's all about reaching a heightened state of consciousness, right? And I gotta say, the excerpts you sent over, those are pretty wild, even for us.
Yeah, it's definitely a powerful text for sure. You see, the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, it's really a key element in those tantric traditions.
And tantric traditions, just a quick reminder for anyone tuning in for the first time, that's all about, finding liberation and like really understanding what this whole reality thing is all about, right?
Yeah, you got it. It's a path to understanding the true nature of reality. Yeah.
So we're talking like getting to the core of what's real, but from the looks of it, this text, it's not exactly a light read.
Right. It can be pretty complex, but one thing that I think makes it unique, it's the way it's put together.
Mhm.
The whole thing is structured as this dialogue.
Dialogue.
Yeah. Between Devi, who represents like the divine feminine, and Bhairava, and he's a form of Shiva, that represents supreme consciousness.
Hold on. So instead of just like laying it all out, it's more of a back and forth, like a
Yeah,
conversation.
exactly. It's a conversation. And that makes it a really interesting way to approach these really, really deep concepts.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So what are they actually talking about in this cosmic chat?
Well, it starts with Devi, right?
Mhm.
And even though she's like incredibly wise and powerful already, she's still got these burning questions. She wants to understand Bhairava's true nature, like at the deepest level.
It makes sense. Even when you're like a cosmic deity, there's always more to learn. So what kind of questions is she throwing out there?
Oh, she's asking, like, does his essence lie in sound, in energy, or like in specific rituals?
Hmm.
She even compares him to like the source of power in sounds, the kind of power where mantras come from. You know what I mean?
Whoa, okay, so she's going deep. But I can kind of see where she's coming from. Like even on a big cosmic level, it's like we always want to know like where does this all come from? What's the source of it all?
Exactly. And I think that's what makes it so relatable. Even if we're not cosmic deities, we all have that kind of innate curiosity, that yearning to understand the origin of things.
For sure. So how does Hammerwall handle all these big questions she's hitting him with?
His answers, well, they can be pretty surprising. He tells her straight up that she won't find his true essence in the rituals or the forms that, people normally focus on.
So he's basically saying don't get caught up in the surface level stuff.
Pretty much, he's pushing her, and by extension, us, to look deeper, to go beyond those initial assumptions.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. I mean, if it were that easy to figure out, it wouldn't be such a deep dive, right? But so is he like giving her any hints, or is he just leaving her hanging, telling her to go figure it out on her own?
He does offer her a path. Actually, not just one path, he offers her 112 paths.
Wait, 100 and okay, so he's not messing around.
No, he's not. He reveals 112 different methods, or dharanas, for reaching that heightened state of awareness that Davy's after.
112 different ways to tap into this higher consciousness. Wow, okay. So he's really saying there's not just one right way to do this.
That's exactly it. He's showing there are so many different doorways into these deeper states of consciousness, and they can look totally different.
It's almost overwhelming. Okay, but with that many options, there's got to be some like overarching principles or ideas that tie them all together, right?
Oh, for sure. He's not just throwing random techniques at her. There's a logic to it. For instance, a lot of these techniques, they have to do with the breath, with harnessing what's called prana in this system.
Okay, prana, I've heard that before. It's like that vital life force energy, right?
Exactly. And, one technique involves like focusing your mind right where the prana and apana, which is the downward flow of breath, where they kind of like originate.
So it's about like finding that balance point between those two energies.
Yeah, it's about creating this sense of wholeness and presence by tapping into the flow of breath.
Hmm. That actually sounds a lot like some of the breathing exercises you see in, yoga or mindfulness practices these days.
You're right. There are definitely some parallels there. And it's not all about breathing either.
Hmm.
Some techniques focus on like really tuning into your senses, building that sensory awareness.
Oh, okay. How does that work?
Some involve concentrating on specific points in your body, others on the vastness of the sky, even on the sensation of an ant crawling on your skin.
Whoa, that's interesting. It's like taking something really ordinary, like an ant crawling, and turning it into a doorway to a deeper experience.
That's the idea. And what's really cool is how those ancient techniques, they actually connect to ideas that are becoming really popular today. Like mindfulness, being present in your body, noticing the smallest sensations. It's all about that.
It's like these ancient practices are suddenly becoming super relevant again.
Totally. But then the text takes it even further. It starts describing techniques that actually challenge how we perceive reality itself.
Whoa, hold on. Challenge the perception of reality. What does that even look like? Like, how do you practice that?
Well, some techniques involve visualizations, like imagining your whole body being burned away. Others focus on contemplation, like contemplating the universe as an illusion.
Okay, those are some intense concepts. Sounds like they're really trying to shake things up, to break through the way we normally see the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's all about going beyond those limitations, the boundaries we create in our minds. It's about experiencing a more expansive reality.
Okay, so we've got breath work, sensory awareness, and even like warping our perceptions of reality. That's a pretty wild range. I'm curious though, do these practices ever tie back to Devi's original questions about Bhairava? Like, does he ever just come out and give her a straight answer?
That's where things get really, really interesting. See, the techniques themselves, they're not the end goal. They're more like tools to help you experience something beyond any fixed form or ritual.
It's not about perfecting the technique, it's about what the technique helps you realize.
Exactly. Remember what he said about true meditation? How it's not about visualizing some deity, and true worship isn't about external rituals.
Yeah, yeah, definitely remember that. It's like he's pointing to something much deeper.
He's saying true realization, it comes from dissolving your mind in the void, merging with the ultimate nature of reality, going beyond form, finding the formless.
That's deep, man. Really deep. It's like he's saying, don't get caught up in the how. Focus on the why. Focus on the experience you're looking for.
Exactly. And what's really amazing to me is that it's a message that still resonates today. People are still searching for that deeper meaning, that connection to something beyond the everyday world, just like Devi.
Yeah, it's definitely like we're tapping into something like timeless and universal here. But something else I'm curious about. We talk about how some of these techniques, they seem to have like echoes in modern practices, right? But there's also this whole like secrecy thing going on in the text, right? Like it mentions only transmitting these teachings to like qualified students.
Right, right, yeah. The idea of keeping some of the teachings secret, it was pretty common in these esoteric traditions. It wasn't really about being like exclusive or elitist.
It wasn't, but I mean, it definitely kind of sounds that way. At first glance, anyway.
Yeah, I can see how it would seem that way.
Yeah.
But think of it more like protecting the teachings themselves. You know what I mean? It was about making sure that they were shared responsibly and not misused or like misinterpreted.
Okay, so it was more about like safeguarding the knowledge itself. But wouldn't that limit who could actually benefit from it?
It definitely raises some interesting questions about like how knowledge should be shared, right? And I guess in a way, it's similar to how we approach sensitive information today. Like, think about medical knowledge, right?
Right.
You wouldn't want just anyone performing surgery without the right training, the right understanding.
Yeah, right. That could definitely do more harm than good. So it's like recognizing that some types of knowledge, they require a specific context, a certain level of preparation to be actually beneficial.
Right.
Huh.
That's the idea. It's like giving someone a really powerful tool without the right guidance. And the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, it's packed with these powerful tools for exploring consciousness.
Oh, yeah, it definitely is. And I guess that kind of circles back to what you were saying before about how, the techniques themselves aren't actually the goal. It's more about the journey. It's about exploring these 112 paths and seeing where they lead you.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the beauty of it. It's not like a rigid set of rules or anything. It's more like an invitation to experiment, to discover what works for you personally.
Mm.
Maybe one technique really resonates and maybe another one just sparks a new curiosity.
It's almost like a choose your own adventure for consciousness, right?
You got it. And it makes me think, like Debbie, she's on this journey too, right? We talked about her initial questions, but how does that exploration unfold throughout the text? Like, does she actually try any of these techniques out?
Yeah, does she like give us a play-by-play?
The text doesn't really go into detail about her personal experience with each technique. It's more focused on Bhairava, him presenting the different approaches and explaining the principles behind them.
So it's less about her specific path, her individual journey, and more about offering like a broader view of all these different possibilities.
Precisely. But you can see her, grappling with the concepts, asking questions, and really trying to push beyond the limits of what she currently understands.
Okay, so it's like even though she's this like incredibly powerful deity, she's still going through that process of learning, of questioning, of like expanding her awareness.
Absolutely. And in a way, I think she represents all of us, all of us who are looking for that deeper truth and are willing to try different paths to get there.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. Speaking of like connecting with something bigger, we talked about breath work, sensory awareness, even like messing with our perceptions of reality. Are there any other like big themes, that kind of emerge from these 112 techniques?
One thing that really jumps out at me is it's the emphasis on the power of attention. A lot of the techniques, no matter what they look like specifically, they involve focusing your attention in a really precise way.
So it's not just about what you focus on, but it's about how you focus.
Exactly. Whether it's on a specific spot in your body, on the flow of your breath, or even on like the concept of emptiness, it's all about cultivating this really, really sharp focus, like a laser focus that can cut through all those distractions and lead you to that deeper awareness.
Makes sense. I mean, especially in today's world. There's just so much noise, so much distraction. It's super easy to lose focus, to get lost in the chaos.
Totally. And it's like the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra is saying, hey, you actually have the power to choose where you direct your attention. You're not a victim of the chaos. It's about taking back that power and using it to explore the inner landscape of your being. You know what I mean?
It's like a reminder that we have more control than we think over how we experience things.
Right. And the more we practice focusing that attention, the more we can tap into that deeper level of consciousness that Bhairava's talking about.
So it's not about like escaping from the world. It's more about transforming how we relate to it, how we relate to everything we experience.
Exactly. It's about seeing the world and ourselves, through a different lens,
Hmm.
one that reveals the underlying unity and interconnectedness of everything.
That's a beautiful thought. But man, it also sounds incredibly challenging.
Well, it's definitely a challenging path, no doubt about it. But the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra doesn't shy away from that. It embraces the complexity of the human experience and offers these tools, to help us navigate it with more awareness, with more presence, and ultimately with more freedom.
Yeah, it's definitely a path that asks a lot of you, commitment and being willing to kind of step outside that comfort zone a bit. But I think that's where the real growth happens, right? When you're willing to like push those boundaries, explore what's out there.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's like you're expanding what you're capable of experiencing. You're opening up to all these new possibilities. And that can be exciting, but also kind of scary at the same time, right?
Totally. And our listener, they've already started digging into those excerpts, and I'm sure they're finding a lot to think about. Out of all these techniques, all 112 of them, is there one that really stands out to you? One that you think like might really resonate with someone who's just starting to explore these ideas?
That's a good question. The one that I keep coming back to, it's the one about contemplating the universe as an illusion.
Yeah.
It's a tough one to wrap your head around.
Yeah.
But it can also be like incredibly freeing.
Okay, contemplating the universe as an illusion.
Yeah, that's a real head scratcher. I mean, how do you even begin to approach something like that?
It's about shifting your perspective.
Yeah.
Like think about how often we get caught up in all the drama of our lives, all the ups and downs, all the worries, all the things we cling to. What if you could like zoom out and see it all from a totally different angle? See that a lot of what we think of as solid, as real, it's actually like constantly changing.
It's almost like seeing the Matrix.
Yeah.
Seeing through the illusion.
Exactly. And, that can be a real game changer.
I bet. But wouldn't that make everything feel like meaningless? I mean, if it's all an illusion, what's the point of anything? That's a common reaction, but it's actually a misunderstanding. It's not about saying that our experiences aren't real. It's about recognizing that there's like a deeper reality beyond them. It's like, yeah, the waves on the ocean are real, but they're also part of something much bigger, something much more profound.
So it's about like zooming out even further.
Right.
Recognizing that there's more to reality than just what we see on the surface.
Exactly. And when you start to see things from that perspective, it can be incredibly liberating. It doesn't make things meaningless. Actually, it can give them like a deeper meaning.
I can see how that would be powerful to know that like you're not defined by all those things that are always changing around you. But how does this idea of the universe as an illusion, how does that fit with like modern thinking? I mean, it seems pretty far out there.
Well, what's really interesting is that it actually aligns with some of the discoveries in modern physics, like the idea that matter is mostly empty space.
Yeah.
That what we see as solid objects, they're really just energy vibrating different frequencies.
Yeah. So it's a different way of looking at it, but it's pointing to the same idea, right? Like
Yeah.
that there's more to the world than what we see with our eyes.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra so fascinating. It gives us these like timeless insights that can be explored on so many different levels.
Well, there you have it, listener, a deep dive into the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra. We've explored this amazing dialogue between Devi and Bhairava. We've uncovered some of those 112 like mind-blowing techniques, and we even got into like how we approach this kind of knowledge, how we share it, and what it all means. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty inspired to keep exploring.
And that's really the most important thing, right? To stay curious, keep experimenting, and see where these paths lead you. The Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, it's a text that really rewards that deep thinking, that repeated exploration.
It definitely will keep us thinking, long after this